Okay, they finally here. She looks so cute.
My niece-in-law lost her life, and my great-great-niece lost her life, which was born last year on my birthday, which was my birthday present. Now, I'm only gonna have memories of her now. This is all too much for me.
In the early hours of July 9, 2021, a horrific tragedy struck a home in Trenton, New Jersey, leaving 4 dead, including a defenseless baby. At 3:30 a.m., frantic 911 calls sent first responders rushing to the scene, where they found a charred home and a nightmare beyond imagination. The fire had claimed the lives of 3 adults and an infant, but when the flames were finally put out, what they discovered inside was far worse than they could have imagined. As police dug deeper, they uncovered a chilling truth. The person responsible for this brutal act wasn't a stranger, but her very own boyfriend. Consumed by a vengeful rage, he had set the fire, taken the lives of his girlfriend's entire family, including the baby. But the true horror? The baby he murdered was his own flesh and blood. Little did anyone know the story was far from over, and the investigation into this devastating event would uncover more than anyone could have imagined. This case hits even harder when we remember the father who, out of wickedness and revenge, decided to take the life of his own daughter to punish her mother.
I can't imagine somebody doing this to this innocent child who was just a couple months short of her 2-year-old birthday.
We covered her story before, and if you haven't seen it, stay tuned. It's one you won't forget. Now, let's reflect on the life and death of Princess Jones's family.
That's the grandpa. Damn, she looks beautiful. That's me right there. That's me all the way. Beautiful.
Princess Jones was a vibrant 24-year-old mother who adored her daughter, 9-month-old Milani, and shared a deep bond with her family. Her mother, 42-year-old Tiffany Abrams Jones, was described as a joyful and loving woman who radiated positivity. Tiffany was married to 50-year-old Prince Jones, a devoted husband and father who had been with Tiffany for nearly 24 years. Their love was evident to all, a love that was regularly shared on social media for everyone to see. Tiffany and Prince had recently celebrated their wedding anniversary in grand style, marking a milestone in their long and happy marriage. Their bond was one that was admired by all who knew them. They posted about each other often on social media, their relationship a shining example of commitment and love. But little did they know, this seemingly perfect family was about to be torn apart by one act of unimaginable violence. Princess Jones was in a loving yet complicated relationship with Michael Sanders, a 23-year-old man who soon would be responsible for the destruction of their lives. In the early stages of their relationship, they experienced the joy of young love, moments filled with laughter and a growing sense of togetherness. For a time, they seemed inseparable, building a bond that many believed would stand the test of time. But Princess and Michael's love story, however, wasn't without its struggles. Like many young couples, they had their share of disagreements. Their relationship had its rough patches, and these struggles would ultimately set the stage for the horrifying events that unfolded that fateful morning. Despite these struggles, they managed to find moments of happiness, patching things up and continuing to try and move forward. And before long, they would be expecting a child. In the months leading up to the fire, Princess and Michael were expecting their first child together, a 9-month-old beautiful daughter named Milani. Family and friends threw a baby shower to celebrate Milani's impending arrival. Tiffany, excited about the future, eagerly helped prepare for the celebration, ensuring that every detail was perfect. It was a joyful day for the family, with everyone coming together to celebrate the new addition to the family. But amid the laughter and smiles, Michael was also present. He appears just as cheerful as the others. He smiled, laughed, and engaged in small talk, his demeanor giving no clue of the darkness brewing inside him.
My niece ass out. Don't worry about where nobody at. My niece, y'all see everybody doing it.
Oh! Okay, y'all, officially started. The parents-to-be is here.
To everyone else, he was just another participant in the joyous occasion, but behind his smile was a storm of rage and resentment, plotting a sinister course of action that no one could have predicted. Family members described Milani as a sweet, fun, and happy baby, the light of the family's life. Tiffany and Prince were especially enamored with their granddaughter, and Milani's birth was a joyous occasion for the whole family. But then, things would take a violent turn. On July 9, 2021, at approximately 3:40 a.m., an unexpected fire broke out. The flames quickly engulfed both sides of the 2.5-story wood-frame duplex. Michael Sanders had grown so upset with Princess and her family that he decided to destroy their home. What started as a disagreement quickly escalated into an act of pure rage. However, the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Not only did Michael's own daughter, Milani, die in the fire, but so did Princess's mother, Tiffany, and her father, Prince, and Zamir McRae, an 18-year-old relative who was at the home at the time, all of whom were trapped inside. Despite efforts from firefighters to save them, they were all pronounced dead at the scene. Prince Jones was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to his injuries just days later, making him the fourth victim of this horrific act.
A tragic house fire in New Jersey claimed the lives of a grandmother and her 9-month-old granddaughter. Jennifer Joyce is live in Hamilton Township with the latest there. Jenny?
Good evening, Shana. Well, investigators tell me that they are wrapping up here at the scene. They spent all day searching inside the home and around the property, looking for clues as to how and where this devastating fire started, as family members and neighbors grieve such a heavy loss. People gathering, embracing at the scene of a tragic house fire that claimed the lives of a woman in her 40s and her 9-month-old granddaughter. The Mercer County Prosecutor's Office says 3 other people are undergoing treatment at St. Barnabas Burn Center in Livingston.
In addition to the fatalities, 2 others were severely injured in the blaze and were treated for critical burn injuries. First responders who witnessed the aftermath of the fire described it as one of the most tragic nights in the history of the fire department. As the flames were put out, investigators began their search for clues as to how and why the fire started. They soon learned that Michael Sanders had been planning this horrific act for some time. The Mercer County Prosecutor's Office stated that Michael had sent a text message to Princess the night before the fire, asking her to get the baby out of the house. But then, there was one piece of evidence that suddenly made everything clear. Surveillance footage from numerous cameras in the area helped track Michael Sanders' movements the night of the fire. One video in particular showed Michael walking past the residence wearing a dark-colored hooded sweatshirt, a mask, and white gloves, just 15 minutes before the fire broke out. This was a clear indication that he had prepared for the crime, going to extreme lengths to conceal his identity. But what Michael Sanders didn't know was that his every move had been captured. The footage not only showed him near the scene, but it also showed him entering a nearby gas station on Greenwood Avenue. Here, Michael was seen purchasing a torch lighter and cigars, items that could easily be used to start a fire. What was most chilling was the moment when Michael removed his mask, revealing his face for several seconds while paying for the items. Minutes later, investigators discovered something even more incriminating. The reflected light from the fire was visible in the camera's lens just after Michael passed by. It was clear that he had set the fire moments after he was caught on tape. That wasn't all. The investigation also revealed that Michael had discarded his mask and gloves shortly after the fire started. The evidence pointed to one conclusion. Michael Sanders had deliberately set fire to the house, murdering his own daughter, Milani, and her grandparents in the process. As the investigation into the fire at 213 Woodlawn Avenue unfolded, detectives began to uncover a deeply disturbing pattern of violent behavior from Michael Sanders. Little did they know, this seemingly isolated incident was just the tip of the iceberg. It wasn't long before investigators discovered that Michael Sanders had been involved in a previous violent episode. This past confrontation was far from a one-time event. In fact, his violent tendencies had escalated in the past when he had a confrontation with an ex-girlfriend. According to police records, Michael had gotten into a heated argument with his ex, which had turned into a dangerous confrontation. The argument, which started over text messages, quickly escalated when Michael became enraged after his calls and messages were ignored. What no one anticipated was how quickly he would spiral out of control. Michael Sanders walked behind his ex-girlfriend's car and fired several shots into the vehicle before fleeing the scene. Fortunately, no one was hurt in this incident, but it was a stark warning of Michael's potential for violence. He was eventually arrested and taken into custody, but the emotional scars from the violent outburst were lasting. As detectives pieced together the evidence, it became apparent that Michael Sanders had meticulously planned the fire. His actions were premeditated, and there was no question about his intent. The fire had been his way of retaliating against Princess Jones and her family. But what fueled this act of violence? Princess and Michael's relationship had been strained, marked by frequent arguments. Despite the birth of their daughter, Milani, Michael struggled with jealousy and resentment, especially towards Princess. His controlling and violent tendencies had escalated, and he had taken his frustrations out on those around him, culminating in the horrific act that would forever alter the lives of Princess and her family. But what shocked everyone was Michael's involvement in his own daughter's death. Milani, the innocent child who had been born out of love, was caught in the crossfire of her father's rage. It was a tragedy that not only tore apart a family, but also left the entire community in disbelief.
My niece-in-law lost her life, and my great-great-niece lost her life, which was born last year on my birthday, which was my birthday present. Now, only gonna have memories of her now. This is all too much for me.
However, Michael Sanders would be nowhere to be found. After committing the crime, he fled the scene, trying to evade capture. Detectives had to work quickly to locate him. They searched his known locations, following leads and conducting interviews with people who might know where he was hiding. Soon enough, they would receive a tip. The tip that led them to his home on Bayard Street in Trenton. When officers arrived, Michael was not there. The authorities feared that he might be trying to flee the area, but with the mounting evidence against him, they knew it was only a matter of time before they would catch up with him, and they did. Eventually, just days after the fire, the authorities apprehended Michael Sanders. He was arrested at his residence in Trenton, where detectives had found additional evidence linking him to the fire. Among the items recovered was a dark hooded sweater, which matched the one seen in the surveillance footage earlier. Michael Sanders was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Milani Sanders, Tiffany Abrams Jones, Prince Jones, and Samir McRae.
First, we are following breaking news just into our newsroom within the last hour. Mercer County prosecutors say a man has been arrested for setting a fire that killed 3 people, including his own baby girl in Hamilton Township. Michael Sanders is facing a number of charges, including 3 counts of first-degree murder. Prosecutors say he was arrested this morning. The fire happened early last Friday. Sanders' 9-month-old little girl and her grandparents were all killed. Investigators say Sanders was seen on surveillance video buying a torch lighter and cigars. They also say he allegedly warned the baby's mother, texting her to get out of the house hours before.
He was also charged with multiple counts of aggravated assault, arson, and causing widespread damage, and taken into custody where he was held without bail. His arrest was a relief to Princess's family, who had been left grappling with the loss of their loved ones and the devastating blow to their sense of safety. While no amount of justice could bring back the loved ones they had lost, there was a small sense of closure knowing that Michael Sanders would now be held accountable for his actions. However, the journey to justice would not be easy. As the trial began, the courtroom was filled with emotion. Princess Jones, her family, and close friends were all present, seeking some form of justice for the lives lost that night. The prosecution argued that Michael Sanders had premeditated the fire and had acted out of spite, resentment, and jealousy. They laid out how he had planned the fire, purchasing the necessary supplies and walking past the house in the dead of night before setting it ablaze. Defense attorneys, however, attempted to paint a different picture, questioning Sanders' mental state and suggesting that his actions might have been the result of a temporary lapse in judgment. They attempted to argue that he wasn't fully aware of the consequences of his actions, but the weight of the evidence was too much to ignore. Surveillance footage, physical evidence, and testimony from family members painted a clear picture of Michael Sanders as a man consumed by jealousy and rage. The prosecution highlighted his history of violence and the fact that his own daughter had been killed in the fire he started. The family and the prosecution made it clear that no matter what defense Sanders' attorneys tried to present, nothing could bring back the loved ones lost in that horrific blaze. Throughout the trial, Princess Jones's family was forced to relive the nightmare of losing their loved ones in such a brutal and senseless way. The trauma of the fire and the aftermath was evident in their faces as they listened to the evidence and testimony, but they refused to let the pain silence them. They wanted their voices heard, and they wanted justice for Milani, Tiffany, Zamir, and Prince. Every day, Tiffany's family stood strong in the courtroom. Despite the overwhelming grief, they shared memories of their loved ones and reflected on the joy they brought to their lives. The family's efforts to honor Prince and Milani's memory became a focal point of the trial, a reminder that this wasn't just a story of tragedy, it was a story of love, loss, and the resilience of a family that refused to give up on the pursuit of justice. After weeks of emotional testimony and compelling evidence, the jury deliberated on Michael Sanders' fate. The trial had been a painstaking process, but it was finally time for the family to receive the justice they had been waiting for. In the end, Michael Sanders was found guilty on all charges, including 4 counts of first-degree murder, arson, and several other related charges. The jury's decision brought a sense of relief to Princess's family, but it also marked the beginning of a long road toward healing. While they would never get back what was lost in that fire, at least they knew Michael Sanders would pay for his actions. The verdict was a victory, but it wasn't a happy one. The wounds left by the deaths of Tiffany, Prince, and Milani were deep, and no amount of justice could ever fill the hole they left behind. In the aftermath of the trial, Princess Jones's family vowed to continue living their lives with the memory of their lost loved ones in their hearts. They remained dedicated to preserving Princess's legacy and ensuring that Milani's life, though tragically short, would never be forgotten. The family had worked hard to raise awareness about domestic violence and the warning signs of toxic relationships. They shared their story in the hope of helping others who may find themselves in situations of control and violence. Through their pain, they found purpose to help others avoid the same fate and honor the memory of those who were lost. May their memories live on forever and serve as a reminder of the importance of love, family, and the pursuit of justice, even in the face of unimaginable loss. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.